Okay, so I was up late last night and I was scrolling through videos on YouTube. Um, and I was going through a lot of the shorts. And what I found were, I guess it was because I watched one or two, and then a whole bunch more started to come, were a lot of videos discussing how men feel about certain things. And I thought this was really interesting, and I thought it was pretty appropriate for an elephant in the room topic because most of the time, men do not tell you how they feel about certain things. They just are mute. They are just silent on their true positions on key stuff, things that women talk about all the time. And I would argue they are very silent on the very things that feminists harp on the most. So feminists harp on what women want in relationship to what men get. And men don't counter that. Men don't say, well, this is what I want in relationship to what you women get. So I'm going to try to discuss a bit of the revelations that were thrust my way just a few days ago. One of the things that I heard that were really interesting was that shacking up, right? So guys and girls that shack up, they're not married, but they're living like they're married. Who complains in that relationship that there needs to be a marriage done at some point? Okay, I'm not talking about the parents of the couple. Okay, mom and dad will want them to get married. I'm talking about within the couple, within the man and woman's relationship. Who's the first one to say, you know what, we need to get married? Okay, hands down, it is the girl that says this. And so I'm watching this clip, and I'll have to give you guys a snippet here. But I'm watching this clip, and basically the girl is saying, I I am your girlfriend, but you're treating me like your wife. And so if you want to treat me like your wife, you should make me your wife. And then he counters that and says, so in essence, you want me to be your husband. And she's like, yeah, I want you to be my husband. And he says, what about a husband would I be doing for you after we're married that's different than what I'm doing right now? And so she stops and thinks. And he says, I provide for you, I protect you, I make sure you're loved, I'm here, I'm loyal. What about our relationship will change after we're married? And then he drives the dagger further and says, I do all of those things because of the man that I am, not because of a status within our relationship. And that just about did it for me. And I said to myself, you know what? If this is the perspective, if this is how men are looking at that dynamic, because they usually are not the ones that are asking for a marriage within that context. It's usually always the girl in that situation that wants them to be official, right? That wants the ring, that wants them to be tied down. Let's put a label on it. Let me have your last name. Let's make it a thing. Rarely is it ever the guy that asks for that. And that is the first time that I'd ever heard it presented that way, where he puts it in her lap like, okay, you're telling me that you need a status in order to love me better. And I'm telling you that I never needed that status in order to love you the way that I'm loving you right now. How do you argue with that, right? So It's hard. And I think that's a beautiful thing that was brought up. We need to hear their opinion on these situations, because a lot of times, guys, you will not say these things. You will not say these things, even though that's what you're thinking. You will not say these things. Um, Shacking up does not help a relationship. Okay, there are studies, whether the guy is a knight in shining armor or not, which he sounds like he is. There are studies. Okay, Steven Crowder talks about these studies. Um, it's mainstream now, unfortunately, because a lot of time has passed and a lot of people have fallen victim to this. If you shack up and then get married, you have an 80% chance of getting a divorce. That's really bad. That's a very bad statistic. Um, and they can't really give reasons why. I mean, there are a lot of people within the moral nooks and crannies of the world that will tell you that the reason why that is because you're kind of like lying to one another with your body, saying that I'm fully yours when technically you weren't, because you could never completely commit by saying, I do at the altar. So there's this dichotomy within you and all this. So all the whole philosophy behind it and the whole moral construct behind it. But the reality behind it is that if you shack up, the likelihood that you're going to get a divorce is 80%. Okay, so whether you know the morals or the philosophy behind it or not, if you care about the couple, you would be cognitively conscientious of the statistics. Okay, we don't really know why this is the case, but apparently when you shack up before you say I do, you eventually say I don't want you after getting married. So what I would caution men about, what I would caution men about is that they don't easily become the provider. Because I think being the provider is the default. I think being the provider is your go-to. Men are always going to provide. It might not always be financially, but men will always lean on covering the home, whether that be as a protector, whether that be as a financial provider. They're always going to lean on overcompensating the boundaries of the home. And by boundaries, I don't mean fencing you off from the world. By boundaries, I mean what builds the house's structure, what keeps the house's integrity. Men naturally default in supporting the walls, if you will, of the home. And that could be through giving the family a sense of identity. That could be through finances. That could be through protecting the home. Men naturally fall into that role. So when you shack up, men are going to do what they do best. And so what you guys will end up doing is donating that love with no strings attached. And that's not good for you. It's not good for your family, because one way to make sure that you're really supporting the foundation of your home is to be sure that that home isn't going to dissolve at any waking moment. And if there's no bond between you and the person that you love, and by bond, I don't mean a sexual relationship, I mean like pen to paper, like promise, spoken promise before your lover and before God, that this is never going to be severed. Without that kind of conscientious understanding that this home will not be shaken, through separation, you're kind of supporting these walls of the home in vain because it ain't got no roof. Like there's something key that's missing. And for you to just be the man, be the dad, if you will, in that home, in that shacking up setup, being the husband, you're kind of husbanding over a pseudo home. And that's very rocky, that's very shaky. And that's not good for you. That's not good for any man. A man deserves more than that. So these are just my thoughts, and I wanted to share these. I think that it's important to hear guys' takes, especially when it comes to relationships and even just proclivities as a whole. Guys, you need to talk more because we girls out here, some of us truly have no idea. So please continue to share. So that's all I have for you guys right now, and I'll be back for more later. Bye.